All right, I'm going to tell you what they say about gold, and I have a completely different opinion, and I will state mine after they state theirs.
Man has mined gold for thousands of years, but found only 160,000 tons worldwide, enough to fit comfortably inside a 4-bed house. Physicists discovered that this ultimate metal was created in outer space, long before planet Earth existed, over 5 billion years ago.
All right, I take exception with all that. And there is copious amounts of gold on Earth. I know that there is at least 400,000 locations where there is vast quantities of gold. They have no clue where to look. And it isn't a place where nobody would look. So when I show you where to look and how to look and where to find it, it is easily found. You can pinpoint it exactly where to go and to drill, and then when you drill down, if there's any gold that comes up on a drill, there will be huge, huge, huge quantities of gold down there. And I will tell you how to find it. Alright, I showed this picture in the last video, and it's a gold vein, and I mean it literally is a gold vein or artery, one or the other, and I think it's an artery because I can see some, I believe that is red blood. And the red blood is the arterial blood. Now, this was an artery, I can guarantee you, because arteries blow out during the death process from the decomposition creates gases. The gases pressurize the body. The body blows out of its weakest places, and those are the fingertips and the arterial exposures to the closest to the surface, like in the neck and all that business. I've shown this a million times. So you got to pay attention to Mud Fossil University on YouTube. Mud Fossil University on YouTube. That has all the videos, tells all about, I mean, there's hundreds of them up there, literally. Now, let's get back to this. That is one of the blood service areas, and it is because it's open, it is an artery. If it was a vein, it would have clamps, or they call them vein valves, and it only lets the blood go one direction. When you die, it will not let that blood out of these tubes. And what happens is these tubes fill up with black iron, FeO2 blood, which is the 2-oxygen blood. All right, so that is the anatomy and the biology of what happens with gold. And what is gold? Well, gold's heavy. All right, it's heavy. It drops. So this did not die in this position. This would be upside down, and the blood came to the top. This would have drifted to the bottom. All right, so let's go on a little further. Now, just so you know, they don't only find gold in veins. This is skin. That's actually skin, and that is where the investment of where that skin tags into the next layer of skin below. And I know this very, very well. I have dozens and dozens and dozens of examples. All right, you see that? That's gold, and that's actually fascia. And the fascia is a very, very tiny little tubules that normally contain water that are in your body, that are the matrix of your, they call it, I believe it's called a myofascia system. It's your entire structure of your body held together in like a big, huge elastic bag. That's what myofascia is. And that is the same thing. That's the fascia. And what happens is if those little tubes fill up with gold. And the reason this happened here is because the guy was laying in such a position that this was the lowest part and caught the gold. All right, I'm not going to drag this out. This is the vein and artery. The vein side sucks the blood back up, the artery side supplies it, and these are the arterial, huge arterial passageways that will collect this blood, this gold. And it collects in a lot of places, but we're looking for the ones that are in these big passageways. All right, this is basically an actual human being that they filled up all the blood vessels with the red, it was all the arterial, and the blue, which is all the returns. So you don't have as many returns as you do the arteries, because arteries are providing fresh blood. The returns are just slurping it back up. So think about that. You can see where these big heavy lines are. Those are the big heavy arterial passageways. That's the ones we want to find where the gold is. That's actually the skin ridges on the bottom of the toe. The actual toe, you know, like fingerprints, but on the toe. Now, this is actually the vein side and the black. You see how black that is? And I'll show you the whole thing in a second. But this is the vein side, and this is the artery side. You see how nice and red, bloody that is? That's where the red blood goes in there. And now here's where the gold is, out at the tip. Now this is actually electrum. And that's what they normally find is electrum. Hold on, I'll find it. I gotta focus in, give me a second. Alright, you see that? That is what they call electrum. And you see all the organic stuff around it? That's coming right out of the little dot to the, you know, where it's emanating from, right there. That is actually a blood vessel. Whoops, I got to get back up to it right there. It's right in the middle of the screen now. That's the blood vessel where it's shooting all this blood out of, which was included the gold. Because this is in a transition. This is what happens when it settles. The blood settles, and then something petrifies in actual blood, and it creates opal type situations, and that's what you see here. You see some very spectacular colors. You see that? That's a toe. And that stuff down at the bottom there, that is actually the blood and congealing and turning into crystals. That's what happens with blood. And it's shot right out of the end here. One side shoots out and one side doesn't. And the arterial side, which is here, shoots out. The vein side clamps off. See, it doesn't shoot out. And this vein side didn't shoot out. And this side actually has the callus on there. So it's a big toe. So that's what happens. The gold flows to the lowest point in the body. So let's look down here at some anatomical stuff, and let's just finish up on this because it's very simple. All over the earth there was giants. And this is all recorded. It's nothing, and I've seen them, I have them, and they've had to have them DNA tested. There's no mystery here. Now, when they died, and there's no mystery about how they died either. They died in a flood. It says it. It's all written. When they died standing up because they were extremely tall. They drowned standing up, stuck in the mud. And I call them mud fossils. And their feet were down in that mud. And the lowest part of their feet is loaded with blood, as you just saw that toe. And that is where you're going to find the gold. And there's some huge arteries in here, which will be filled completely, as far as I can determine, with actual gold. Because these guys were literally, I mean, just enormous, enormous, enormous creatures with thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons of blood. And it settles to the bottom as they were standing and dead. And that's just exactly what's going to happen. Now, some of them fell over little bits and pieces here and there, and that's where they find the little scraps of gold here and there. But here, these you should be able to easily drive cars through these veins. And they should be completely filled with gold. And it says in the text there was 409,000 giants. That's exactly what it says. And it was recorded that they were drowned in this flood. And that is over 800,000 feet stuck in the mud. Now, not all of them got stuck in the mud, but you know, you could see these plateaus all over the place. And I'll show you one right now, and then I'll show you how to find it, and then it'll be all done, and you can do what you want to do. All right. And the only reason I'm doing this is because this is not going to hurt the earth like they're hurting the earth now. What they're doing mining gold now is atrocious. It's a scourge on the earth. It's terrible doing what they're doing in the water supplies and all these different chemicals and minerals. It's not good. So, you know, I don't care what you do. I don't want any gold. But, you know, it should be not too hard to find. All right, I know this is tough to get your mind around, but do you see these little hex bundles here, hexes? Everywhere on Earth you see these hex fibers. They call them basalt columns from volcanic eruptions. They're not. These are independent bundles, and the reason they're independent is because there's fascia around them. Everything in your body is separated by fascia, and that's why lungs come out, you know, by themselves, and hearts and all this stuff are separated because the fascia that surround them that's that job to keep it separated from the other pieces so they don't all glue together in your body. And that is what happens. And this is the fibers that you see on Devil's Tower. You see them all over Hong Kong. They're all over the planet because the planet was covered with creatures, gigantic creatures. And you find the lowest part where these end up going to, and that is where there's going to be some blood down there. And there should be some gold down there. And nobody's going to look under these huge, huge, huge structures. So you're on your own. Alright, as you can see, that's an Achilles tendon, and they break right about here. It's what's called an abrupt transition, and I show this in my mud fossils. It's very, very easy to see. It goes from an extremely it goes from the fibrils, which are these little hex basalt columns that you see all over the earth. Well, they're not little, they're gigantic. They're in the Causeway of the Giants, Devil's Tower, anything with these tendon fibrils, these hex fibrils, that is going to be a foot. And wherever you find those hex fibrils, down lower, way down low, as far as the bottom of them go, there's going to be some blood vessels that service them. That is a fact. Now, there may be gold down there, there may not be gold down there. I don't know, but I would suspect there will be, because it flows down as the guy stood standing, drowned in the drown, and it would just naturally settle, because it is the heavy part, and it's what the electrum is. It's gold, and it's platinum, and silver, and copper, and all that stuff mixed together. It's the metals. The rest of the stuff vaporizes off, sublimates, it goes away, it transfers, and it gets replaced. So that's what happens. You're going to be looking for this anatomy in the ground. And I'll show you that in a minute. And then you have to know where the blood vessels are. And that's also quite simple. And then you take a drill, and you drill down from the surface to where that blood vessel would be. And if gold comes out at some point, then you just dig down there and take out the big pieces. It's as simple as that. I'll show you one on the surface of the earth, and then good luck. Alright, there's people calling these things trees. They're not trees. Trees do not flare with the rings out like this. And this is a tendon. That is a tendon that runs down to that. It's called, I think, the calcaneus tendon or something like that. It runs down to the calcaneus bone, which is the tip of your heel. And you're going to be able to find, there's going to be places, and it might be right there, there is an artery. And there'll be an artery over here somewhere, and there's blood supplies over here. This is the center of the bone. Now I have, hold on a second. Oh, I have this. This was discovered 5 years ago. I found this, and this is the foot of, I believe, what these ancient creatures were like. And this is where that foot is, and this right here is where the bone is, and that indicates there was blood. And you look on your foot, right across here, your foot will have a big blood vein across here, and that's, anytime there's blood, you see this buffy color, and this broke, and the blood leaked out. The black blood right here is what's called a bone black, and it's the same as if you get an injury in your body, and this is where the heel was. It's probably not going to be able to be seen easily, but this is where the heel came down, and that's that calcaneus bone. And there's going to be an arterial supply down here, and if this guy drowned in the mud down like this, it would flow to the bottom. Now it didn't, because he's a little guy. Now you see this? Look, this is what's called, where I'm calling no toes. That is actually the bottom of the guy's foot. And look at this. It's like he's got a sole on here. Right, this is where the fibula breaks off, and these have no toes. There's no toes on these. You see this little circle here? They all have these investments that tag in, and then that's where blood was, and there's blood around here. And there's no toes, but they are in here. Tish Egerton found some of these not too long ago that are very degraded, but it's excellent that they're degraded, because I can tell exactly what was inside them. But anyway, all you got to do is get an anatomist. I think that's a little blood vessel right there. I mean, it's just as simple as that. You take a drill, you drill down until you go deep into the ground to where the blood would have stopped, and that's where the gold should be.